All right, welcome to this episode of For the Love of the Sport. And today we are talking to Bernadette Galvan. She is an IFBB figure pro. She's the vice chairperson for NPC Texas, and she is also a promoter with Galvanized Productions. She's got a couple shows. She's got a lot more going on than that, but we'll talk about all that. So how are you doing today, Bernadette?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Whitney. It's such an honor to be here talking to you today. You know, it's great to get some time out of our busy schedules just to, talk to the people that obviously that mean a lot to us. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on today. I feel like I haven't got enough time to talk to you over the years. I've only kind of met you in person a couple times while you were judging. You judged my show, the Nashville Fit Show, last year, and hopefully you will be again this year. Pretty soon, but I hope so. Hope to have you back.
Such a wonderful experience at that show. Wow, that show was so amazing, so well put, so well run. The venue, I mean, for those of you that are thinking about competing at that show, don't even think about it. Just do it. It's so amazing. And I really hope that they choose me to be there again this year.
Yes, me too. I'm going to make it happen for you to be there. So
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody always likes to know like how everybody got their start in the sport, because I feel like we all have a different story and a different path on how we got involved in bodybuilding, because it's not that normal of a sport. It's kind of weird. So how did you become interested in it, and how did you even get started?
My interest was, I actually started working for a fitness center. I just graduated from nursing school. And I remember telling my mom, I want to go back to school. I wanted to get my bachelor's. And she said, okay, but you need to work. So I remember hunting for a job, and I landed a job at a gym, believe it or not. And it was a brand new fitness center that was opening up, and they were very involved with a local NPC show. This gym was in McAllen, Texas, and there was an NPC show that was hosted there that the gym actually sponsored. Okay. And so that was actually my first time attending a bodybuilding event and actually helping out with it, backstage, lining up athletes, kind of like expediting, I guess you can say.
So the first show you ever went to, you helped with?
Well, actually, no. The first show I ever went to, I watched. Oh, okay. After that, I got involved with that same show, working out of the gym that I was working with. They were one of their main sponsors. Okay. And so they asked for volunteers. And of course, I volunteered. And I was backstage with the athletes, getting a feel of what, competing is all about. And of course, I got the bug right away.
Of course.
Right away. And so fast forward a couple years later, I decided to get on stage, and I actually moved from McAllen to Laredo. And that's when I said, you know what, I'll go back and compete at that particular show, which meant a lot to me, being that I had, helped out with that show and stuff. So I went back and competed at that show. At the time, there was only figure and bodybuilding and fitness, obviously, for women. So I chose figure, and I competed at that show and won. And then I was preparing for the Texas State, and my coach tells me, hey, there's a show in 2 weeks, which was the Lone Star. It was a national qualifier. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought we were getting ready for the Texas State. He's like, no, you're ready now. And I'm like, I don't even have a suit. He's like, well, we're going to find you one. So I decide to do that show, and I win. And the judges come up to me and tell me, hey, you're ready for nationals. And to be honest with you, Whitney, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I mean, I didn't even know what any of that meant. Yeah. So of course I look at that calendar, and for me, when I saw the list at the time, it was the Team Universe, which was in New York. Yep. And I thought, oh my God, I've never been to New York and I want to visit. So I'm going to make it a vacation. And that was my first time attending nationals. That was in 2004.
Okay.
And then in 2005, I placed 7th, which I thought was fairly well for my first national show.
Yep.
And then the following year I did junior nationals, in Chicago,
Yep.
and I placed 11th,
Okay.
and I wanted to quit after that. I was like, this is not for me. It was a lot of pressure. And my coach said, no, we're taking her to the USAs. And I'm like, what do you mean? The USAs, it just seemed like so much bigger.
Like
And
it is.
I went 6 weeks later to the USAs after junior nationals, and I actually won my pro card there.
Wow.
So yeah, it was actually really quick. That was in 2005.
Yep.
And then after that, I did compete as a professional athlete. My first year was in 2006. Was it 2006? I actually did one show. It was the Europa. I placed 4th.
That's good.
And then in 2007, that was the only show I did.
Okay.
And then in 2007, my first show was the Pittsburgh Pro.
Okay.
And it qualified me for the Olympia.
Ooh.
Because back then it was top 2, I believe, would get Olympia qualification.
Yeah, that's fast.
It was. So I went to the Olympia in 2007 and in 2008. In 2008, I won the Europa, which also qualified me for the Olympia. And then the Olympia in 2008 was my last show.
Oh, that's an amazing journey. I want to say
Quick.
it was quick. It was quick compared to, and I say that because I don't want competitors to think, oh, I'm going to do 2 shows and get my pro card, get qualified for
right.
It usually takes a lot more time.
It was, and I felt like back then, Whitney, I don't know if you can attest, I don't know exactly when you were competing, but
2009 when I started.
Back in the days, it was, I remember like the USA's, my class was like, there was like a class of like 60 girls in figure.
Yeah.
You know, the classes were so large because there really wasn't as many categories to choose from.
Okay, I didn't think about that. I was wondering how big the classes were because when I was competing, they were about that 50 to 60 because bikini had just started too at that time. But yeah, you did basically all you had was figure. I mean, so that makes sense. It was still a lot of girls. But one thing that you said, and I want to just point out to everybody again, is you went from 7th place to 11th place to pro card. And I'm saying that again because I hate when competitors, like you're placing from show to show, don't let that determine you, because you can go from last place to pro card or vice versa at any given weekend. You could walk in, you don't know who you're going to be up against. You don't know who the judges are going to be. I mean, it could be completely different every time. And so just act like you're starting from scratch every single time. You're placing from show to show should not determine you. And so that's what I wanted to point out with you is you went from 7th, 11th pro card.
I'm so glad you recognize that because presentation definitely is key. So what happened to me, going to my first show, I was just so excited. I remember choosing it, not only because it was in New York, but Devonna Medina was going to be there. She was the reigning Miss Figure Olympia, and she was somebody that I really looked up to. And I was so excited to meet her. She was just such an inspiration and really paved the way for a lot of us figure athletes. But it was more of an exciting journey, that first show. The second show that I went to, see, back then there was no social media. It was all magazines.
Yep.
So I get there and I was thinking, okay, Junior Nationals is going to be a smaller junior show. Well, that line, and I'm just looking at it, and a lot of these women were, big names, that I was following in magazines and whatnot. Yep. And so I was so intimidated, Whitney. I was so intimidated that when I literally got on stage, I froze. I remember George Farah going up to my coach and saying, oh my God, that girl, if she could just get her posing down and they need to feed her some potatoes because she needs to fill out a little bit, she's going to get her pro card. Wow. So my coach comes to me and tells me, hey, we're taking her to the USAs. But for me, I was so overwhelmed. I did so bad. I was so mad at myself because my coach was so angry. And he's like, what happened to you? He's like, we got to do this again. I'm like, no, I don't think I could do this again. So when I decided, I remember he begged me for about a week and I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
I changed my suit and I practiced my posing every day, which was something that I wasn't doing.
Okay.
And
Yep.
when I went up there, my presentation was day and night,
Oh my
day and night. And that is why I don't think my body was so different, Whitney, you
Right.
know,
Yep.
a few weeks prior,
Right.
it was really my presentation.
Oh,
And so,
so much difference.
yeah, I think athletes really need to understand how important practicing your presentation is,
Yeah.
because you work so hard to get your body right, but if you can't present it, we're not going to be able to judge what we don't see.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar, I never practiced posing like for the longest time, several years in. I don't know why. There weren't posing coaches for bikini. Like bikini had just started. So there weren't really, well, you know this, there weren't posing coaches. There weren't all the resources back then that we have now. So it's like,
Exactly.
I was like, why practice posing? Like the diet and the training is what matters. Like, and I just kind of aimed it every time, but wow, the difference, like when you actually practice, and it's not just the posing, it is, but your level of confidence and ability to own the stage and catch the judge's attention. Like you need that on top of having a good body. So it's important.
It is. And you couldn't have said it better. The confidence that I had from one show to the other, it really did show. And so after that, you best believe, I never froze on stage after that.
You learned your lesson. It only took one time.
Right. But yeah, it was interesting. And you're so right. Back then we did not have the resources. Like even my suit, back then we had to wear a one piece and a two piece, but even then some of them, had either too much coverage or, we don't, nowadays, these suit makers, they have it down.
They know.
Like, oh my gosh, these girls they're going to get that suit to fit them exactly how it needs to fit. Yeah. And so there's so much to choose from and so many resources out there that these athletes, need to take advantage of, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So you do a lot of judging in the sport. And so I wanted to ask you just kind of about that a little bit. And we were talking earlier about individual routines. And so what, I talk to athletes about this stuff all the time, so I'd rather hear it from you. What do athletes need to be focusing on in their individual routines versus comparisons and everything else? What's your advice?
Well, for amateur athletes, I know that a lot of these athletes watch videos and we want them to. They follow professional athletes and these are the athletes that they're learning from. But unfortunately, an amateur athlete isn't given the same amount of time as a professional athlete. Right. Obviously in the pro divisions, you're not going to get, depending on what show it is, I don't really see more than 30 pros in competing at a show. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, we, here in Texas, we have an amazing problem of having a ton of athletes compete. So depending on the amount of athletes at a show will really also be, that's going to play a big role on how much time you're going to get on stage. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like for example, with, bodybuilding and classic physique for these male athletes, sometimes they won't even be given the 30 seconds to a minute, on stage. They'll just all come out together. They'll do their mandatories and then maybe come out and do a 30-second routine. Yeah, per se. My advice to male athletes, especially in bodybuilding and classic physique, if you are granted, that minute or 30 seconds in the morning, which a lot of times these athletes aren't, but if you've practiced a routine, which I highly recommend athletes to have a routine that is entertaining. I think that basically, gets a crowd going. Even as judges, we like to see that. We want to be entertained, but that's really for finals only. Yep. In the morning is when we're judging. So if a competitor has an amazing routine, or they even throw in a split or a backflip, that's not going to help us see your body and judge your body. So I always recommend, practicing your strong points. Show us your strong points. Try to hide your flaws. You're only given a short window. 30 seconds isn't really a long time. So I would focus on maybe just hitting your mandatories versus doing your routine that you practice so hard for, but that really is for the crowd. When it comes to judging, we really just want to see your strong points. So that is my advice for men. For women, bikini, figure, you're usually just doing a front pose, a back pose, and then a front pose again. At least for bikini, they want front, back, front, with obviously a transition in between. So that shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. But anything longer, I know the judges will not be happy with. It's going to shortchange the other athletes that are going to come on. So it is very important to practice those 10 seconds by hiding as much of your flaws as you can, but definitely showing your strong points.
Yep. And so I'm glad that you're talking about hiding your flaws and only showing your best, because I think, at least I pose with a lot of girls, and somewhere along the way, somebody is telling them that more is better. And I'm like, no, more is not always better. You don't need all these different transition poses in between the front and the back, because you only need to show your best. Like, that's what the judges are judging you on. So why show anything less than that? The judges are looking for your flaws. Don't give them ample opportunity to keep finding them. Do your poses, execute them with confidence, and then move off to the side so that they want to see you more. And they'll bring you up in call outs and comparisons. I think Sandy said, leave us wanting more. Like, that's kind of what sticks in my head, is like, just show them your best and then get off to the side so that they want to call you back out in comparisons. Cause that's when the real judging is done, when they're in a lineup, right?
Exactly. Now, you couldn't have said it better, Whitney. I've always said at every workshop I go to, I tell them, especially for amateurs, less is more.
Yes.
I always say that. I stress that all the time. And so, we really just want them to focus on, showing their strengths and hiding those weaknesses, because the more time you spend up there, the more we're able to see. So most definitely.
And you talked about watching videos earlier, and it is good to watch videos just to get ideas on like how the pros move, look at different transition options, but don't get caught up in, like, you don't have to have all these extra arm movements and transitions and all these extra things. And sometimes I think competitors think that they do because that's what the pros are doing, but no, less is more.
No, and once they, earn that right to, that when they become a professional athlete, then it's another level. Then you're practicing a totally new routine. You're obviously giving more time. And I think then is when they wish they'd have less time.
Yeah. I know when I started competing as a pro, it's like, this is way too much time. Like, I still kept it pretty simple for a pro, because I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna get out there and show my best. And then that's good.
Yes.
So Bernadette, you do so many things. Like, I don't know how we can go into all of them, but you promote 2 shows, you judge, like, you do so many things. What else do you do? So
I am a business owner. I've been in the business, the gym business for, gosh, I pretty much never left when my mom told me you have to work. I fell in love with the, fitness membership club type of business. And I learned it before I actually started learning how to work out. For me, I kind of did things a little bit backwards, if that makes any sense. I started learning that the fitness center I was working for was owned by a doctor and a land developer. It was just a beautiful, beautiful membership club, huge. I basically learned how to open up businesses for them. I opened up 4 gyms for those 2 owners.
Wow.
And so it became so easy for me to, go through the pre-selling before the gyms even open, and, the ordering of equipment and the layout of the equipment, and, hiring staff from daycare attendants to front desk employees to trainers and group training. And so I learned all of it, but back home where I'm from, there really wasn't any of that. So I kept telling the owners in McAllen, like, hey, we need to go to Laredo. There's nothing out there. Over there, we'll break records, because we really were doing so well. And so we came and looked at land and stuff. And I guess somehow, I've always said that our spirit kind of gets ahead of us. So I was confessing all these things, not really knowing that I was already manifesting these things over myself. Wow. Fast forward a little bit, I remember my brother calling me. I'm still working for this land developer and doctor, and he's like, hey, I'm here at a Jiffy Lube changing oil, and there's a couple that's opening up a gym here, and they want to meet you. I come, I meet them. I end up making the move over here. And the reason why I decided was because I thought I would be able to focus more on me. I wouldn't have as much to do, and therefore I could focus on competing. Yep. But boy, I thought running one gym was going to be easy, but the mindset here where I was just, it's very different. And so I felt like I was putting in a lot more time, but it was so worth it, Whitney. Fast forward, because of the sport, I end up, I asked for the rights to become a promoter here in Laredo. Since I had moved, I thought, well, I want to do what they're doing out there in the Valley. Yeah. So they granted me the rights to promote. That's kind of how all this came about, working for a gym, promoting, competing. Just to give you a brief synopsis, a sponsor of my show here in Laredo wanted me to go into business with him. I didn't want to do that to the people I was working for, because they were so good to me. Yeah. But a year after, they decide they want to sell their business. And I found that, like, I saw that as an opportunity with the man who was sponsoring my show to say, hey, if you really want to go into the gym business, now's the opportunity for us to do this together. And so we did. In 2007, I became a partner with him. And then in 2017, I bought him out because of my faith. Dedicated the gym to, to God. And we named it Rock Fitness Center because the Lord is our rock. Yes. And God has been so good to me with my business. I now have 3 centers. And we're growing. And then now I have my brand, Be Galvanized, where it all started with like fitness accessories. Now I have my own clothing line. So each gym kind of has its own boutique. Just to get back on, competing. I don't think an athlete will ever feel ready, first of all. I remember wanting to compete, and it took me 2 years before I got on stage, but I trained as if I was going to compete. And even, the first show I did, I still didn't feel ready. And I don't think an athlete will ever feel ready. But you have to just dive into it and do it, or else you'll never know. Yeah. And that's how you learn. Exactly. That's how you learn. That's how you learn what it's all about. I do tell athletes, if you've never been to a show, please go to a show. Support these promoters who put so much into it, but not only for that reason, just so you could see what it's all about. The first show I ever went to, Whitney, I was bawling as if I was in church. Like when you receive the Holy Spirit and you cry, that's what happened to me at my first fitness competition, that I knew I was going to compete. I'm like, wow, God, what are you doing to me? Why is this happening? Okay, I guess I'm going to get ready to compete. And sure enough, I did. But, his path for us is something that, sometimes you just don't know what's in store. But once it all falls into place, like I say, if you really do walk in spirit, God will lead you in every way. And sometimes you're going to be so surprised by the things that you're able to overcome and along the journey. The victory isn't always first place. For some people, it's just getting out of a situation that they were in, or, focusing their mindset on stronger things versus being, for many people, it could be simple as, being depressed. The mindset that you have to compete is something I think that helps in so many aspects. Most importantly for me, I just knew that it was something that God had in store for me. And so I've embraced it. And I am very grateful to the NPC because even with my business, my sponsor believed in me because I went to compete at the Arnold. This was an avid, like he would go every year to the Arnold, buy a jacket every year. And when he found out I was competing at the Arnold, it was like, oh my God, I put my money on her. Like he believed in me because of the sport. And that is how I became his partner. So I am extremely grateful to the NPC, to the sport itself, to what it's done to my mindset, because the person I was before I started competing was the weakest person ever. And it taught me how to have a strong mind. It taught me to believe in myself and to say yes before you say no, because like cottage cheese, oh my God, how can I eat that when I'd never even tasted it?
Yeah.
You know, but when you learn the goodness of it, you're like, okay, I can do this. And then you learn it's not that bad. So, you know, the mindset that the sport teaches, there's just no price on it. There really is no price on it. And so, like I've said, you may not win first place at the show you're competing at, but you might meet some people along the way. You might learn some things about yourself along the way. That is what you get to take with you. And like I said, there's no price on that.
Oh my gosh, so much good. You're giving me chills over here. Like you're speaking my language now. And that's one of the things that I love about you the most is your faith and your walk in the spirit, and it's just amazing. And more people need to hear about that. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Whitney. The days that we're living in aren't easy. For me, if I wouldn't have the faith that I do, it would be really hard to live through this life because struggles and things happen to people all the time. But the energy that is out there in this world right now with so much division, with so much hate, we need people that are faith-based, that aren't afraid to spread positivity and love. That is ultimately what gives our souls peace. We need that in this life. We need to have peace in our lives, definitely.
And we're going to do a whole nother episode on that topic. Well, you've given us so much good advice today already. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on Instagram or websites? Where can they find you?
Yes, my handle on Instagram is RockFit. There you can, you'll see my Galvanized Productions is the page of my shows. I also have Be Galvanized, which is my brand, and Rock Fitness Center are my businesses. If y'all are ever in the area, oh my gosh, just show your NPC card and you will get a free workout at my gyms. Any of them.
Okay. Well, I'll link all your Instagram pages and all your links below in this episode, so everybody will be able to find you. We will definitely be talking to you again. So
thank you so much, Whitney. I really appreciate you, your time, and everything you do. And once again, like I said, guys, if you've never been to her show in Tennessee, it's a must. Amazing show, amazing production.
August 20th this year, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yay, yay.
Okay. Thank you so much.